history of the book and the process of it was when I was in school at Arizona State University, my mentor, Myla Vicente Carpio, she talked to me about how important it is to document our people and their stories, because sometimes oral history isn't validated in the way that it should be. And so I started practicing with Dad, and I'd do interviews of him and then type them up and transcribe them. And I told him that one day I would put it all together into a book. And my intent was that I would go to Kinko's and get the ring binder type of book with all of his transcriptions. And I did that, but he continued to talk about the book that he wanted to be out for the community. So a couple of years ago, I got sabbatical, so I had time where I could sit down and we could work on the book project. And I asked him, what is it that you want to come across in this book? And he said, I want to create a book for our young people so that they know the strength, the resilience, the creativity, and the foresight of their people, of their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, for generations all the way back. And that sometimes we get so inundated with the current social indicators of our people, such as the highest rate of alcoholism, suicide, dropout rates, that sometimes that influences our people's self-identity of who they are and their self-worth, and then how they see themselves to be able to contribute to our community. And I don't want that. I want them to know the beauty within them. And so immediately we realized that, and we've known this all along, but thinking about in a book project, is that none of us ever do anything alone. That we all have a whole family and a whole community behind us. And so we started to look at the types of people that we could involve, and trying to involve as many different families as we could, so that when our young people read this book, they could find someone that they connected to and that they could be a part of and have that experience to where they knew that they had a connection here. So we ended up with 27 different authors. So we have Chris Peters, Chisa Oros, Kacha Baldi and Kayla Bigay, Virgil Moorhead, Stifa Ramos, Rose Dorza War Soldier, Jack Norton, Willie Pink, Lauren Baumlin, Michael Orkett, Callie Lara, Lynn Risling, Julian Lang, Shauna McCovey, Adrian Colgrove Raymond, George Porty Blake, Jim McQuillan, Donald Moore, Princess Jinson Colgrove, Kistiante Joseph, Brian Tripp, Team Kremling. We have our photographers, Vincent Tracy, Lozen Nez, Ellen Colgrove, and Gary Colgrove Jr. And that's something that this book is about, is that when you look at the value behind what we as Indigenous people have to share and teach, oftentimes what occurs is what we call testimonial injustice, which means that we only value or validate what is presented in a dominant narrative, which is typically a person from the outside telling the story within. And so what this book is about is that we each tell our own story in the way that we have experienced it. And we could have continued for days and days and maybe years, and involving even more people in the book. And actually we were supposed to only have 270 pages, and we ended up with 360. And that's important because everyone needed the space to share their story. But we also recognized that there were a lot of people whose stories weren't told in this book. And what this book is about is treasuring our own testimonies. That we have people within our own homes sitting right next to us that have valuable information to share. And so the idea of this book is to start conversation in our communities and to start talking about and valuing our own contribution, our own piece to the puzzle of who we are as a community. So I just wanted to read, Dad shared his story about Grandma Josie, and I just wanted to read it to you so you get a taste of what the book is like throughout. The This is his chapter. When I was 17 years old, I entered the service. I sent my hazardous duty monthly checks home to Grandma so that she could buy food. When I returned home from the service at 21 years old, my grandma brought out a coffee can full of money and set it on the table in front of me. "What is that?" I asked her. "It's all of the money that you sent me." She replied. I told her that I sent her the money for her to spend. It was a thank you for all that she had done for me. "If you want to thank me for all that I have done," she responded, "then you can do for your children as I have done for you." Throughout my life, I have been influenced by my promise to my grandmother. I have spoken out, fought, loved, collaborated, and strategized to protect sacred knowledge. I hope that I have been a good grandson, and I wonder if I have done right by her. Now that I'm wondering about things, I wonder where she buried that damn coffee can. Now that you have had a laugh, I need to say something to those that follow. You come from extraordinary people. You are resilient, you are powerful, you are humble, you are gifted. As such, you have a responsibility to protect the treasure, the sacred knowledge of our ancestors.